you're evaluating an AI voice system for regulated workflows, there are only three questions that matter. Where does it run? Who controls the data and keys? And how can you audit every action end to end? In the next few minutes, I'll show you a deployment model that behaves like an internal line of business application, single tenant in your Azure EU region with clear PII boundaries, deterministic logging, and a clean exit scenario. No mystery sauce, no trust us hosting, just infrastructure you own, security you can verify, and evidence you can hand to legal, risk, and audit. Let's walk through it. Let me start with the only question that really matters for a system like this. Where does it run and who actually controls it? We are not asking you to plug into a generic hosted SaaS platform. We are deploying an AI voice engine for debt management directly into your Azure tenant in EU regions that you control. All core components, application, databases, queues, caches, logging, and AI inference run in your subscription under your identity and access management. Once handover is complete, Beyond Code does not operate production infrastructure by default. We only access your environment if you explicitly grant temporary access for support. From a risk and control perspective, treat this as deploying an internal line of business application, not outsourcing a critical process to an external SaaS vendor. Every critical account is created in your name. Azure subscription, OpenAI, communication services, Twilio, and any supporting services. Debtor and portfolio data live only in databases you own in your EU region Azure environment. We do not mirror, export, or warehouse your debtor data into our infrastructure. Our code runs inside your environment and uses your keys and identities. Legally and technically, you remain the data controller for debtor data. Beyond Code acts only as a processor when you temporarily grant access for installation, for troubleshooting. If you revoke our access, the system keeps running for you. We simply lose visibility. At a high level, the system has four layers. First, an engagement layer where your teams configure campaigns via web admin interface or APIs. This runs as an Azure web app or container in your subscription. Secondly, an orchestra- orchestration layer built on Python and Fast API that manages call logic, queues, retries, and logging using Azure Services Bus and background workers. Third, an AI layer using Azure OpenAI AI real-time voice in an EU region. This is accessed via your Azure OpenAI resource and inherits your security boundary and policies. Finally, telephony is handled via Azure Communication Services or a Twilio or equivalent SIP trunk still under your accounts to bridge into the public telephone network. The important point is that every component that touches debtor data is either in your tenant or in a telco AI provider with a clear, auditable EU data processing framework. This is the architecture visualized in a simplified format. So, from a control and risk perspective, the key question is exactly what data moves and where does it go. Debtor portfolios are either pulled via your APIs or ingested via secure exchange and stored only in your Azure database. When we initiate a call, the backend pulls just the attributes required for that specific conversation. For instance, debtor ID, phone number, balance, due dates, call state, notes, etc. The dialog context sent to Azure OpenAI uses your Azure OpenAI resource in a EU region with logging and training disabled according to your configuration. After the call, we write a structured result to your database and, if configured, back to your CRM or DWH via API. There is no separate analytics warehouse in our environment and no silent replication of debtor data outside your control. Authentication and authorization are anchored in Azure Entra ID. Your internal users and admins sign in using your corporate identity provider, not a separate vendor account store. We implement role based access controls so that, for example, campaign managers, auditors, and system admins have clearly separated capabilities. Any access for Beyond Code personnel is explicitly granted, time bound, and logged. By default, we have no standing production access. On the network layer, all communication is over HTTPS, and we follow your policies on network security groups, private endpoints, and VPN access. If your standard requires that the admin UI and APIs are only reachable over VPN or via private link, we can talk to design and implement accordingly. After we define your internal security boundaries, the next layer is external dependency layer. Azure operates under an enterprise compliance framework with widely used certifications and audit programs, and your deployment inherits those controls inside your tenant. For telephony, we use providers like Twilio and or Azure communication services that publish security compliance posture and standard data processing agreements so your legal and security teams can review the processing terms end to end. This matters because voice systems touch regulated workflows, and you need third party assurances that can withstand vendor risk reviews. On the software supply chain side, the code base is governed via GitHub, controlled access, immutable history, and a clear audit trail of changes. So the risk surface is not, trust the vendor, it's documented controls for cloud, telco, and source code custody. The platform is designed to be forensic friendly from day one. First, we log every significant admin user action, logins, campaign changes, script changes, blacklist updates, and configuration changes, all with timestamps and user IDs. Secondly, we maintain called metadata logs, which debitor was called on which campaign, what the technical outcome was, and what structured result was recorded. Third, you can optionally enable short-term storage of transcripts or recordings purely for quality control and disputed resolution with strict retention and access rules defined by you. Finally, we can stream or batch logs into your existing SEIM so that security and audit teams can correlate AI voice activity with the rest of your estate. The critical question is, when it breaks, how exactly does it break? Well, if the telephony fails, for example, Twilio or Azure Communication Services is down or rate limiting, calls simply do not connect or go out. We log the failure, reason, and do not spin into uncontrolled retry loops. If the AI layer degrades or becomes unavailable, we can either apply conservative fallbacks or automatically pause affected campaigns depending on the policy you prefer. Third party outages are surfaced clearly in logs and dashboards. We don't hide them as generic technical messages. For misconfigurations by your users, such as a broken script or an overly aggressive retry schedule, we rely on RBAC, change history, and rollback options so you can revert quickly and see who made the change. From a regulatory standpoint, the model is intentionally conservative. You remain the data controller. We act as a processor only when you grant us access for installation or support, and this is governed by a DPA in line with GDPR. The software runs in your EU cloud environment, which means data residency and access patterns are visible to your security and compliance teams. We are explicit that AI behavior is non deterministic and that changes in third party AI services can affect output quality. That's why we run structured acceptance tests with you before go live and capture AI specific caveats in the contract. Underneath, Azure and Azure OpenAI follow Microsoft's EU data processing framework, and Twilio or any other chosen telco operates under its own GDPR compatible data processing agreement, which your legal and security teams can review on their own. We want the responsibility model to be extremely clear. Beyond Code is responsible for the application itself, the architecture, code quality, installation, and defect fixes within the agreed warranty and change process. You are responsible for running your infrastructure, managing access rights, ensuring debtor data quality, and approving scripts and business rules from a legal and conduct perspective. Third parties, Azure, OpenAI, and the chosen telco are responsible for the availability and security of their platforms as per their SLAs and DPAs. We are not smuggling a black box managed service. You can run the system without us if you wish. Our engagement post handover is bounded and contractual. So, to summarize the architecture under maximum scrutiny, you are not plugging into an opaque multi tenant SaaS where data, logs, and behavior disappear behind a vendor wall. You are running a single tenant application inside your own Azure environment. Infrastructure accounts, keys, and data are all in your name with no technical beyond the cloud platforms you already use. Your teams have full visibility from logs, configurations through to integrations and network flows. If at any point you decide to stop working with us, you can revoke our access and either keep running the system internally or decommission it on your own terms. The whole design is built around maximum control on your side and minimal operational risk added by us as a vendor. So, if you remembered only one thing, make it this. This is not a black box SaaS, it's a single tenant voice engine deployed into your Azure under your identities, your keys, and your policies. That means you can automate debt collection calling at scale while keeping GDPR grade control, audit ready evidence logs, and a clear exit scenario if you ever decide to change course.